Hello and welcome to the award-winning gutter, but it's not an award-winning gutter this week. It's an award-winning mashup of the Gutter Show and Midweek Extra, because I've got my award-winning co-host John here to confirm that and to give us a message from the award-winning Gutter Midweek Extra mashup sponsors.
Yeah, so we have got a new partner for this run, and it is Saley, so huge thanks to them for partnering with us for this run. And there's a nice story behind it, actually, and how it's sort of come about, because Saley are operated and run by the same people who do NordVPN, and a subscriber got in touch with us and said that they'd signed up to NordVPN on our recommendation and were really enjoying it, which is great, and getting a lot from it. And then they were looking for eSIMs because they were going on holiday, so they were looking for a SIM card that they could use abroad and avoid all those, expensive bills and shocks when you get back. And they found Saley, and then they saw it was run by NordVPN and thought, oh, they'll be good, they'll be reliable, trusted brand and all that. So they used them, they got it, they got loads of good use from it, found it really easy to use and things like that. So they got in touch and said, you might want to give them a shout to see if they want us to push Saley as well, because they'd enjoyed it so much. So I got in touch with NordVPN and said, do you want us to push Saley as well? Our audience are really enjoying it. And they said, yeah, why not? Let's go for it. And so it is not just Anfield Wrap endorsed Saley, it is Anfield Wrap subscriber endorsed. And obviously they know quality, They enjoy the gutter, they enjoy Rob Gutmann and things like that. So they are a group of people, if you like, that know quality. And so I just want to talk a little bit about them. First of all, the first week that they are partnered with us. So it is, as I said, a new eSIM service app where you can choose from several affordable eSIM plans in over 190 countries and 8 regions. So if you've ever found yourself abroad, in a place where you don't necessarily know, you've got no internet connection, no Wi-Fi spots in sight, you'll understand what a difference a local SIM card can make. So an eSIM provides an internet connection wherever you travel and saves you money on roaming fees and none of those nasty surprises when you get home and you get your bill. There's also 24/7 chat support, so if any problems with it, you can get on and speak to someone and you can get a full refund if your eSIM isn't fully compatible with what you are using. So all you need to do is download the Saley app. I will get it up. It is the nice yellow one on my corner there. That's what it looks like. So you open that up, really easy. Click on Explore Plans, and then I'll just get that up there. I know the focus isn't always the best, but yeah, they are all the different countries and areas. You can sort of flick through them fairly easily. So I am going to decide I want to go to Argentina. Why not? I'll click on that, and then you say how long you are going away for. So you could do 1 day all the way up to 30 days, and then continue on that. I've clicked 30 days on that, and then it goes to this, and when it says got a coupon ? You can say yes, because you can get 15% off with the code TAW. That is 15% off the code TAW. So there you are. So download the Saley app. It's spelled SAILY, or there will be a nice QR code that will magically come up on the YouTube now as well. So you can scan that and go through, or you can go to saley.com/TAW if you want to go old school from the web. But it is Saley on the App Store, and make sure you get that 15% off with the code TAW. And thanks a lot to Saley for partnering with us here for this next run. Really appreciate it, and thanks for that fantastic subscriber. He recommended them to us as well.
Well, we're going to start our first rumour on the Gutter Show, actually, John. Somebody who may or may not need an eSIM, but we don't know if he's going to leave a multi-country eSIM, because we don't know if he's leaving the country or not. It's Kevin De Bruyne.
Yeah.
Young Kevin De Bruyne, 33 years of age. Now, rumour broke yesterday from Gianluca Di Marzio, who is taken credibly in the transfer world. I think even more credibly than his spoofing compatriot Fabrizio Romano. So Gianluca Di Marzio reported that Liverpool have made an offer for Kevin De Bruyne. Now, we subsequently know that the club are briefing that they have not made an offer for Kevin De Bruyne. But that doesn't mean Liverpool might not in the future, Beth, make an offer for Kevin De Bruyne. In the story that Di Marzio puts out last night, he says Napoli are the front runner, so he might need an eSIM if he goes there. So we can't stress that enough at this stage. And I think Saley know that more than everyone. They will be very close to this story. But the midfielder's contract with City is expiring. And he may want to stay in Europe. He may want to stay in the UK. He's best mates with Virgil van Dijk. They are dads at the same playground, picking their kids up, having a chat about formations and who could play who in Liverpool's number 10 position next season. So what do you think? Do you think there's any legs or wings or whatever you have in these things?
Well, I hope he's not heard John's Saley sales pitch there, because if
that was something he was like, but
Yeah.
what about my
That could
phone
switch
contract?
swing it for Napoli,
it was
couldn't it?
it was so compelling. Like, I want to move to Napoli now because I want
to use your sim.
just to use my sim. But yeah, as you say, the club have sort of shut down that initial report that there was a bid made. It feels very un-Liverpool. We know that they have a policy of going for younger players or players that are within that sweet spot. Whether they've still got a little bit of time to go to get to their peak. We know De Bruyne is probably past his peak. Would command big wages. Doesn't feel like the sort of move that Liverpool, particularly with Michael Edwards back in the fold, would make. That said, I mean, De Bruyne is probably aside from sort of Liverpool players, my favourite player to watch for the past decades in the Premier League. Such a joy. He's the one player that I thought, when Liverpool were at the peak of the powers under Jurgen Klopp, I'd have loved to have seen him in that team. He was the one sort of profile of player that I think that team lacked. I think, the midfield was great and it was so industrious, and that Henderson, Fabinho, Wijnaldum midfield had such great balance, but I think he just sort of lacked at times that little bit of ingenuity, and I'd have loved to have seen what De Bruyne at his very best could have done in that team. But I think you look at him now and listen, City aren't daft. There's a reason that they're letting him go, and I think he's been really impressive the last couple of weeks for them, but for the majority of the season, obviously he's had injuries, but going back to that game at the Etihad in, was it February, when Liverpool go there and win, that was sort of the least effective I've ever seen him in a game, and he just sort of looked like the pace was a little bit too much for him. And you had, by contrast, Szoboszlai. I'm not saying Szoboszlai is anywhere near the level that De Bruyne was when he was at his very best, but just sort of his energy and his relentlessness, De Bruyne just didn't have that. So I think for anyone now, De Bruyne is probably a luxury signing. He's not someone that you're going to be putting your hopes and dreams in for a long period. If Liverpool were to think, what, Trent Alexander-Arnold's leaving, we need a little bit of creativity from somewhere for a year or two, let's gamble and go for it, then maybe, but it just doesn't feel like a very Liverpool move.
It doesn't feel like a Liverpool move, Josh, but this is forever something we talk about when we speculate in the summers, usually about transfers, is that don't look at anyone over the age of 26, for example, because who on earth wants
I'm
those
terrible
guys?
for that, Milan.
Yeah, but the truth is that Liverpool this title-winning team has been made up of players who aren't all 22, 23. Luis Diaz, I would argue, has been one of the stars of the season for us. He's 28. Mohamed Salah is the star of the season for us. He's 33. Virgil van Dijk is one of the stars of the season for us. He's 33 as well, 34. I'm losing track of what their age are. So Liverpool set about winning a league title and were successful in it with players aged in the latter part of their 20s and early 30s. Although I don't think this will happen or has significant legs, I don't think it's impossible that as a bonus signing, not a key pivotal signing, that Liverpool wouldn't pick up an elite veteran as an option off the bench, or an option for 2 or 3 games where his legs could hold out for. I don't see it as utterly fanciful, if unlikely. Sorry.
Yeah, I mean, we need a right back. So I don't know if he can play there, mate. He's kind of depicted shades of Trent at times over the years, but other than that,
I don't want to see him play right back.
That was a joke, by the way. I need to clarify that.
Jesus Christ, seeing Trent
but
legged enough.
I think that's the thing, though. I think beyond that, what would be the need that he would address? Because we've got Szoboszlai in the 10. Elliott's been vying for minutes all season. Whether Elliott stays or not remains to be seen. He's not a wide player for Arne Slot, certainly not. So I think Beth says everything there. Really, he is post peak, 33 now. There's a reason City aren't extending. Really, really great player in his day. I think he's pretty much Steven Gerrard reincarnated, isn't he? Like modern day version of Steven Gerrard for me. Very similar qualities and everything. But for Liverpool right now, I'd be amazed. I would be amazed. I think Liverpool are in a position right now where they need to get younger. For me, and you don't do that by signing a 33-year-old fella, you know what I mean, on a free transfer as well. He would be on heavy wages. He's played more this season than I thought, though. I thought he was basically crocked, and he played like 5 times this season. But he started 17 games in the Premier League.
His renaissance, City's recent renaissance, if you want to call it, that's included 4 wins on the bounce, has been very much based around him playing well again, hasn't it?
Yeah. Well, since Haaland got injured, I think he's been like a bit of a false nine for them. Kind of opening up Marmouche and things like that. That's how he's been doing it, and Pep's been using like really wide fullbacks as well, and then clogging the centre. So it's been interesting to see how we've been playing a part for them. But it just feels like a massive long shot for me. It's more of like a banter kind of link for me, where City just get annoyed. You know what I mean? One of them where City supporters just get a bit worried. But
him holding up a Liverpool scarf and a Liverpool shirt, like he did when he was 13 on telly or something, would be Bant's points, wouldn't they?
Yeah, it would be funny.
Okay, well, let's move on to another one. Start with you on it, John, that's sort of been around the last few days. It was a report I think in the Daily Mail it surfaced initially, that Aston Villa need to make at least one significant sale before June 30th to ensure they stay in line with Premier League spending rules. The report mentions goalkeeper Emilio Martinez. Emi Martinez has even been mentioned as a player Villa could sell, but they've also mentioned Morgan Rogers and linked Liverpool to Morgan Rogers. I think he's about 22. We were discussing before we came on air what his predominant position is. We think he probably plays behind a striker more often than not, although he can do bits off the left and the right. What do you make of the player? What do you make of the link? What do you make of the suitability to Liverpool? Possible probability of it happening, etc., etc.
Yeah, I really like the player, but for me, he's in a bit of a group of players. It's only a small group, to be fair, because there's not loads of Premier League players who are good enough to play for the champions. But I think he is good enough to be here. But for me, you look at, well, what would he cost? There is this idea that maybe Villa would need to sell a big star, but would they fancy, for example, they could get decent money for Ollie Watkins, who looks like he's a little bit yesterday's man at Aston Villa, rather than someone who looks like you could build a team around him. So I don't think you get him cheap. And then so you're looking at what he would cost and think, well, is he worth that to Liverpool? And so it wouldn't surprise me at all if he's on a list somewhere at Anfield or AXA, wherever the computers are. It wouldn't surprise me. It wouldn't surprise me at all if he's on a list. He is a better age, to talk that. Although I never go full DiCaprio in these things. Do you know what I mean? Like there is.
He's not in the over 25s category on X Factor.
yeah, exactly. You can drive yourself mad with it with these cut-offs, but he is his best years are ahead of him and things like that. So there's lots of reasons why Liverpool would be interested. But for me, in terms of, I think he fit well in the squad. But it just feels to me in terms of what he would cost. I don't think he'd be a game changer for Liverpool. Do you know what I mean? I don't think he'd take us to another level. I think he'd fit in well with the team and he'd be a good player. But I'd be surprised if Liverpool go in seriously for him in the summer, just because there's other places where you feel like we could get more bang for our buck, just in terms of position, not necessarily in terms of quality.
I think it's an interesting one because if Liverpool wanted him, Beth, John's right, it would cost $1. How much, I don't know, but it's going to be towards the 100 million mark, isn't it?
Do that again, mate.
Towards the $100 million mark. But if you
That's
bought...
for FC ESPN fans, that's it.
Yeah, there you go. Very adjacent. If you bought someone like him, it would signal, wouldn't it not, that you're probably considering maybe playing more of a false 9 system? Is he more of a false 9 than a 10? I haven't watched enough Villa, I'm not going to lie.
I agree completely with John. I think you probably, Villa will be very reluctant to sell him, so he's probably going to command somewhere between 70 and 100 million. And for that kind of money, certainly Liverpool, the sort of club that will want a transformational signing. All of the players that they've paid that money for, Van Dijk, Alisson, maybe slightly less than that. They bid for Moises Caicedo because they felt like those players could take the team to a new dimension. And I think, Morgan Rogers, as much as he's a very good player, and I think, absolutely I could see him doing a job for Liverpool. But I don't think Liverpool would fork out that money for a player in that position who, like we say, I don't really think we're 100% sure what his best position is. I think if they're going to spend that kind of money, they'll probably be spending it on a number 9, which he isn't. And so, yeah, I just think for the fee, when you consider how much that Liverpool have to do. You know, we know they've got to buy a right back, they need to buy a left back, they've got to buy a centre forward. Really, I think it would probably be quite low down on the list of priorities. So unless they were to have a surplus of money that they could throw around, which they probably won't, then yeah, it's unlikely.
Yeah, I don't think you're buying a Morgan Rogers for the sort of money we're talking about, Josh, and then also having the funds to drop a similar amount on a centre forward again. I mean, Liverpool will retain their interest in Alexander Isak, a difficult one to extricate, but you'd think they'd work harder on that deal than they would on a Morgan Rogers one.
Yeah, I think the budget is supposed to be spent on your needs, your biggest priorities and things like that. And I think Rodgers for me would be a 10 for Liverpool. Would play where Szoboszlai plays. He's played on the flanks for Villa, but I think slots, wide players. I think he wants different things than Emery does, like 1v1 specialists and stuff like that. And I don't think Rodgers is that. I think he's a good player. I think he's a little bit like. I think people put a lot of weight on the fact that he's just really athletic and he can run box to box and he hasn't missed a game. He plays every 3 days. I think that's one of the reasons people love him. But I think if he was like 5 inches shorter, I don't think I want to be hyping him as much as they are. I think he's homegrown as well, which is a big quality of his. Liverpool toying with the idea of losing Kelleher and Elliott and the Trent's obviously going. So maybe that's one of those things. But I can't see us spending what it'd take to get in Rodgers, who I think if you look at Liverpool's best 11, I think if you sign Rodgers, I don't think Rodgers gets in it. So if you're spending 70 to 100 on that, you're not going to get your money's worth.
Well, let's shut down all Rodgers talk here and now. We can officially dismiss Rodgers. We decided it's just not happening. Look, I think we're going to have to move on. It's the elephant in the room, the Trent in the room. He's leaving. He's gone. I don't want to talk about his life choices any more than I have over the last few days. It's become more than any human can bear. I want to talk about the people who might replace him. Start with you, Josh, on it. I mean, I've got 2 candidates on my list, and I'm struggling to go much further. I mean, we were tentatively linked with a guy called Wesley at Flamenco, who I've never heard of, but he's Brazilian, so I'm assuming he's good. But the more prominent links have been to Frimpong because he's got a release clause and he's good, and then Aina at Forest, who isn't out of contract this year, but he is next year. And there are swings and roundabouts with both those 2 lads. Is there any other names you'd throw into the ring? Or how do you like those 2?
There's a fella from Monaco called Vanderson. He's
Vanderson?
Vanderson, yeah.
Like Anderson with a V?
Yeah.
I like that. Catchy.
I think he's 24, good all-rounder. He's a good size and all that as well. I think he's got a decent career behind him now where he's played about 2,000 minutes for 3-4 seasons in a row or something. So I think he's one I'd mention. But yeah, I think Frimpong is... I can see why Liverpool would entertain it because of what the market's like. If you look at the market, there's not many great options there. I don't think Frimpong is ideal at all, tactically especially. But he is dangerous. He's a good age. He's a Bundesliga champion and all that, and
he's cheap.
Yeah,
because of the release clause.
Yeah, he's cheap as well. That's a very good point. Yeah, and he's homegrown as well.
It's a deal you can do. Liverpool are one thing I think is always a recurring theme in the last couple of years on these shows is Liverpool are very much in the business of being able to do the business, and the release clauses really unlock deals, don't they?
Yeah, they do. And to be fair to him, he is worth more than 35 million.
Yeah,
that is a bargain. I think if you was to use him for 2 years and sell him in 2 years' time, you're getting that minimum. So good player in that. I've got concerns that he's not a fullback, which sounds mad because that's what we'd be buying him for. But I think he's a wing back at best, where you use him ahead of the ball and he doesn't build the game for you. He doesn't stay behind the ball. You let him run, you let him off the leash. He's quite creative and stuff. So you'd have to use him differently to how we've used Trent this season. But I hang my hat on the fact that he at least poses a threat. I like that he's, if you're the opposition, you've got to worry about him at least, which is a good thing for me. But then at the same time, he probably gets targeted going the other way. So
we're used to that.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So yeah, I like it more now than I did a few months back. But since I've looked at the options, I'm a bit more like, okay, I could see Frimpong getting done, but still not ideal.
But there's a dearth, John, of right backs. It may just be we don't know them, but I mean, there's not that many secrets left in football these days, as the cliche goes, but it's true. Frimpong, I like him because he's got freakish qualities, or whatever the Ian Graham said Klopp liked in a player. Extreme qualities. I like him for that, and I'd take a punt, especially given the price, especially given the Dutchiness, the age, the fact that he's got a goal in him. There's a sort of match-winning element to his game, which may outweigh the reservations. And outside of him, there's the fella at Forest who's 28 who would only ever be a stopgap. I know there's Conor Bradley, of course. Conor Bradley's but I don't know. Where do you settle on this one? A deputy for Conor Bradley, a guy who can genuinely push Conor out the team?
I think you've got to buy someone, I think, who you'd be more than happy playing for at least a couple of months next season. And a couple of months might turn into 6-7, obviously, if he does really well. But I think, you need to look at Conor Bradley. And I really like Conor Bradley as a footballer. But I think wherever you're at with him, I think you need to be conscious that expecting him or even wanting him to start 55 games next season is unrealistic and probably not fair on the footballer. And so, okay, you're sort of looking for someone who is willing, able and good enough to start not just some games for Liverpool, but potentially some big ones, Champions League ones, big games in the league. And so you're looking at that level. And so that's where I struggle with the idea of someone, like a Wesley, for example, who's coming in from, a completely different, type of football and you would have thought would need quite a bit of settling. I think where you end up, I think, is either someone like Hanena, who has shown he's a good player, he's shown he's got Premier League experience and might be a bit of a stopgap, but a stopgap can sometimes be okay if you've got other things to do and other things to spend money on. Or are you willing to throw the dice a little bit on the Frimpong? And, I'm with you, Rob. I'd almost prefers to see us do that and then say, well, okay, well, we're prepared to mould him a little bit in terms of what we want. I think the idea of him not being a fullback at all, I think, has been a bit overblown. He come through at City as a fullback, albeit they moulded him into a fullback, but that's similar to what we did with Trent. And then he's at Celtic, he plays right back. And then he gets, the
Dutch national team, I think he's.
No, they play him right up. They play him almost right forward, don't they? Which I think was where people have sort of got into the head, because obviously he plays right wing back for Leverkusen, and Holland you've got a choice. If you don't play wing backs, do you push him up or do you push him back? They've actually pushed him up in more recent years, but then. Listen, Southgate didn't like playing Trent at right back, did he? And would do anything to sort of avoid it. And so I think at international level, sometimes managers are a bit more cautious, and if they've got an attacking player, they'll rather use him sort of further up than think that. And so, and maybe, listen, I don't know the exact makeup of the Dutch team, so maybe they think, well, they've got a good right back, but no one to play there, so he can go there. I don't know, but he plays even further up for Holland, which is quite interesting to me. But I think, he's played plenty of games at right back in the past. Leverkusen have decided to do something slightly different with him. I think largely because that's how they play, rather than they haven't built a team around him, and he's obviously sort of flourished that. So I'm not saying it is a risk. I get that is a risk, but he's played more games at right back than I think is made out. He gets his move to Germany based on his performances at Celtic. Now, quite how much defending you have to do at Celtic, at that period in particular when they were really dominating, is obviously a question. But yeah, I wouldn't be. I'm not as convinced as some people seem to convince themselves that he can't play there. I think there's plenty of evidence from the past that he has. It's just whether he's, like Josh says, that he's got the right attributes to play sort of fullback for Liverpool. But I think at the price and the quality that he's got, I think he is worth a risk. And you can gamble a little bit because you've got I was going to call him a steady Eddie there. That's almost damning him a little bit. But you've got the more old-fashioned right-back option that we've all got a lot of faith in.
I'm going to agree with everything John said there, Beth. And, there's the option of covering Salah, who's going to be a year older. I wouldn't like us to buy just a run-of-the-mill right-back as cover. Because I look at Arsenal's right-hand side. They've got, it's Jurrien Timber and Ben White, isn't it, on there?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
They're both decent, but they're not exceptional. And the great team that Klopp built, that Arne Slot took on, sort of all over the pitch, we've never really sort of tolerated just sort of steady eddies, really. I mean, especially in the full-back positions. Klopp made this Liverpool team famous and dynamic by having exceptional, extreme full-backs with extreme qualities. None more so than Trent and peak Andy Robertson as well. And I'd like that to remain the ambition. I think Conor Bradley's got extreme qualities. The problem is keeping him fit. But I think if we can't keep him fit, much as I quite like Aina, I'm not sure I want. He is a bit more in the conventional mould. I think I'd rather gamble on someone like a Frimpong. I don't know if there's anybody else who jumps out at you.
No, I think the only other name that I've seen sort of linked tentatively, and I think it is literally because there's a dearth of right backs in it, and it just makes sense, is Dumfries at Inter Milan, who I think is 29. So again, would be.
Is he ungettable though? I don't know.
What about Pedro Porro?
Spurs.
Just because they're like 16th. And
they have to sell if they want to go.
They might not get Champions League football, and he's on because he plays for Spurs, he's on a relatively low wage. For the player that he is, he's 25.
I suppose the thing with Porro, who I don't dislike, but I think because he plays in the Premier League and it'd be selling to a Premier League rival, would he come at a premium? And then you look again at the price of Frimpong, and I think Porro has defensive deficiencies. So I think if that's the main reason you're sort of ruling Frimpong out, I'm not necessarily sure Porro is a much better option defensively. So I would be on board with Frimpong, I think, because of the way the market is, as the guys have said. I think because of his age, because he ticks the homegrown box. And I also think what you saw a lot in the tie with PSG was that Liverpool just sort of looked at times to be lacking pace. I mean, PSG was so quick, which was, it was so great. They've been so great to watch. They've got so much pace all over the pitch. And now, obviously, Salah, we know, has lost a yard. Trent's leaving. Robertson has certainly slowed down as he's got older. And I think, say they bring in Kerkez, for example, on the left, having someone like Frimpong as an option on the right, potentially, pushing him further forward if needed as well, I think would just add something. Again, going back to those extreme qualities, would bring that pace that I think Liverpool have maybe lacked at times this season. So I think for that reason, I would be on board, and certainly for the price. Like you say, even if you have him for 2 seasons and then you maybe sell him on, you can probably still make a profit. So I think it's a move that makes sense, even if he doesn't maybe tick every single box that you want from a right back.
I'm trying to imagine Salah, De Bruyne and Frimpong on the right hand side. It'd be a lot of fun.
It'd be some games that would work really well, and others not so well. I want to move on to the centre-back position. A lot of chat about centre-backs. It feels like we've been talking about Liverpool needing one for some time and haven't really entered the market properly. Quansah seemed to partially solve the problem season before this one. He's had a difficult season this season, I'd say. So we're being linked to centre-halves again, and not least Josh, because Kanate has only got a year left on his contract, being very linked to Real Madrid, and we're seeing exactly how these things tend to play out. So it seems inescapable to me that Liverpool need to invest in a centre-half this summer. Almost the only name that's in view at the moment is Howson at Bournemouth. And yet the rumour mill seems to be pushing him nearer and nearer to Chelsea, which I find strange. I think James Pearce might have said it's Chelsea who have offered Howson the more tempting financial package, with the Spaniard, inverted commas, sold on the project at Stamford Bridge. I mean, what project there is to sell someone, and I don't know, other than, do you want more dough, lad?
Yeah.
I felt surely if Liverpool want this boy enough, they get him.
I mean,
Do they want him?
You would think so, but at the same time, if he goes to Chelsea, sound, just let him go there then. Go and ruin your career, mate. Because how many players have gone there in the past few years and just tailed off? They're an absolute basket case at the moment. They haven't got a clue what they're doing, all over the place. Managers different every season. They just buy 1 billion players. Anyone who shows any degree of form, they just show an interest in. So if he chooses that club because they pay a bit more dough versus Liverpool, who are quite clearly extremely well run and the reigning champions, and there's there'll be a quite clear plan of how to use them and all that, and when to use them and stuff. So I just think that's a bad career move. I just think it's a bad choice, and if he makes that, it's his own fault in my head. So
It shows we've dodged
it just
the
shows
bullet.
he's an idiot. Yeah, in a way. I think Chelsea are just go mad on the agent fees. That's what annoys me. Like, I think they just convince the agent, and the agent dictates where. I think they did that with Casado as well. I hope we get him because he's a really interesting player. I think he's got a really good career ahead of him, and he could still be in that spot for Liverpool in like 5 years' time. So I hope he uses Liverpool as a reason all these clubs are in for him, because he's really, really good. But if he goes to Chelsea, I'll be fine with it, because I just think it's a mad decision to make. If you're mapping your career out based on football, how can you choose Chelsea or Liverpool at the moment? I just don't get it. So unless it's money, so whatever.
Well, that's almost true of any other English team at the moment, John. I'm fascinated by the Hoyson link. I mean, yes, I totally agree with Josh. If he does go to Chelsea, it doesn't say a great deal about him or his motivations or judgment, quite frankly, over Liverpool. But what we don't know is are Liverpool truly an option for him? And if they're not an option for him, it suggests Liverpool have other targets. But I'm struggling to see any obvious candidates looming into view.
Yeah, is an interesting one, because the Konate situation, does make it more pressing, like you say, because for someone like Hoyson, you're able to say to him, well, look, you're coming in, but if this guy's likely to be going next summer, then you'll be a definite starter next year, when you've got a year to bed your time and, get in and probably sort of start games anyway. So does that sort of force Liverpool's hand a little bit, or are they still a little bit unsure? You'd hope that they'd still feel like that they can get a deal done with Konate, because you don't want to see another player going for free, and I think he's a very good footballer, and in theory should have his best years ahead of him in terms of his centre-half. So maybe another reason why you won't be too bothered if he goes to Chelsea is that you think, well, they must have, must be confident that Konate's staying, and they must think, well, him and Virgil have got at least two more years at the centre of Liverpool's defence, and it's tough maybe to sell a player who wants to come in and has got offers from other clubs who are likely to be playing in the Champions League. I would imagine they'll wait to see if that's confirmed in the summer, but it is. You'd back them to find someone, is what I would say. I think it's not like other areas of the pitch where you think, we were talking about right back before, there doesn't seem to be loads about. I think centre forward is an area where I think at the moment there's not loads about either, and you really need to pay. Centre half, I sort of feel like that they would by someone whenever I look into it a little bit. There's always like, oh yeah, there's that guy, do you know what I mean? You're like a bit older. Someone like Jonathan Tah, for example, who was really talked of well for a while. It's sort of said to be available. Is he someone who could come in and do well? I know playing centre half for Liverpool is a bit trickier than maybe some other clubs because of how high we play and what we do with our fullbacks and stuff like that. But you would still feel like there'd be players out there. So I wouldn't be too worried if we missed out on him from a point of view of like, well, who else are we going to get? I think for me, it's more, we're making sure that we do strengthen there, because I do think we need to. Like I say, I hope that the Konate thing happens, but they're in an interesting situation with a couple of players now, aren't they? It's not just Konate, there's Diaz as well, contract-wise, where they're looking at it and they're seeing these big contracts go in and thinking, well, so if Virgil's on 300 grand a week, what should Konate's agent be asking for? Like, realistically, like I don't think asking for 200 based on Virgil being on 300 is outlandish. Are you saying, well, I'm 2/3 as good as him? That's a bit of humility, really, isn't it? Yeah. Do you know what I mean? Like, I'm 2/3 as good as the fella I play alongside. I don't think that's But then I don't think Liverpool would necessarily want to pay it. I think Liverpool would think, well, we could probably go and get someone else who can play to a similar level for a little bit cheaper. So they're in this interesting situation with a few of these players who have proven themselves to be a championship standard footballer, but aren't quite of the game changer level. And where you pay those, I think, is going to be a bit of a dilemma now moving forward for the sporting directors and for everyone involved. But I think they'll end up thinking that there's other centre halves out there who could do a job for Liverpool, certainly alongside Virgil van Dijk, who is the best centre-half partner I've ever known. By the way, everyone he plays with, he doesn't look brilliant. That's harsh on them, but I've never known.
What a partner! Can you imagine what a husband he is?
Honestly, yeah, but he's played brilliant. He's played brilliantly with Konate. He's been brilliant with Matip. He's brilliant with Gomez. He looked up with Quanta until Quanta sort of struggled. You know, it's like he's a dream, isn't he? In every way.
In every way. Do you know I'd have alongside Virgil? I'd have that big mulleted unit at Inter Milan, Bastoni.
Well, I really like Branthwaite. So,
yeah, that's
I really like Branthwaite.
Yeah, I don't know, Beth, how about you? But I'd like someone who can head the ball. I think in the Premier League, you got to be able to head the ball. You play in Arsenal and they're putting balls under your crossbar. I want that kind of. I want. Obviously, we need it all. Someone who can play out from the back, but. Of the candidates sort of who've been mentioned connected to Liverpool, John's mentioned Branthwaite. I've now linked us with Bastoni totally from nowhere. Gay at Palace has been linked, not at all. Hato at Ajax, but he's a bit of a left back, centre back, and also don't think particularly tall. Does anybody, any other names, or any of those names appeal to you?
I think I do. I agree with John. I like Branthwaite. If Branthwaite were playing for any other club, I think he'd maybe be linked a little bit more. But again, the chances of Everton selling him to Liverpool are probably pretty slim, especially because he's probably going to have suitors elsewhere. I mean,
he's got a lot of years on his contract still, Branthwaite. I'm not sure.
I don't actually know.
He is left-sided though.
One thing you'd say is it feels like last summer there was a lot of chat about Branthwaite. Obviously, United were interested, but now they've got Lenny Yoro. Does that change? Now they need to buy a centre forward. We know they've not got an awful amount of money, so it would be interesting if Liverpool were genuinely interested and they were the only party in for him, and they offered 60 million to Everton. In their financial situation, would they take it? I don't know. I do like Huijsen. I think he seems to be sort of the next big thing, doesn't he? And again, I know obviously he's a Spain international, but he was born in Holland. I think he did grow up in Holland, so he has that Dutch connection. You bring Kerkez in, perhaps, then you've got the link there. Although it'd be interesting because obviously he plays on the same side as Virgil, doesn't he, for Bournemouth, Huijsen? So.
Yeah, but that's the perk of Huijsen, though. Like he's really two-footed, so he plays both.
Yeah.
He can play both. If you sign Branthwaite or if you sign Bastoni, they both play where Virgil plays. So you'd spend a lot of money on them and he wouldn't start because Virgil's just signed 2 years.
Yeah.
So if you sign Huijsen, that's the perk of signing him. You can give Virgil a break and Huijsen plays there. But if Virgil's playing, Huijsen could, in theory, just play where Konate plays and just be fine. So that's why he's so valuable, I think, because he's so young and he's two-footed and covers both spots.
I think as well, sort of Arsenal get ridiculed for signing so many defenders, and they do need to stop signing them now. But Liverpool haven't signed a centre-half since Konate, which was 2021. Mm-hmm. So 4 years to not buy a centre-half, and you know...
Well, there's a bit of a jump before that as well.
Yeah, and obviously Quanta...
In terms of good ones.
Yeah, Quanta obviously, like you say, sort of filled a bit of a gap last season, but for an elite club not to spend money on a centre-half for a long time, and even Konate was relatively cheap, and then as John said before that, it was Kabak and Davis, so you know they haven't spent big on a centre-half since Virgil, which was what, eight years ago. So yeah. you would say that maybe they're due to fork out a little bit of money on a centre-back.
Okay, we will continue this chat after we go to an insert where John spoke to Steven, let's go Bunting about his work.
You weren't expecting that, Beth, were you?
Really
about his work for the LFC Foundation. Over to John and Steve.
And it is John Gibbons. Very excited to be joined by Steven Bunting, ready even at 9:30 on a Wednesday morning to go Bunting mental if we can, because Steven, it's so nice to have you on. We've once done Anfield Wrap for ages, and we've got you. So thanks so much for coming on.
No problem at all. I'm glad to be here.
And we're here to talk about an exciting event as well, something that you're doing with the foundation. It must be so nice for you to do events like this and combine your loves, because you obviously love darts. It's your job, but it's your passion. You got to where you are because you love it. And as everyone knows, you're a huge Liverpool fan as well. So to be able to bring the two together for one night must be really special for you.
Yeah, no, very, very special. Obviously, every time I go to Anfield, it's always to watch the football. So it's nice for people to be able to come down and be able to watch some darts. And obviously, there's going to be some legends there. Jan Molby's going to be there, and it's going to be a really good night. And it's all for a great cause for the LFC Foundation as well.
Yeah, the club have got you involved quite a bit recently, which must be a thrill. I mean, lots of people have seen the video of you playing darts with Kelleher and Bradley, and they were pretty good, weren't they? They had sort of quite a nice action, but what made me laugh was the number of other players who were all watching, and obviously there must be big darts fans down at the AXA training ground.
Yeah, no, that was a surreal experience, to be honest. It was nice to be asked to go down to the training centre and obviously play against the lads. And obviously Trent Alexander-Arnold then walks in, and Andy Robbo walks in, and it was like Jota walks in, Harvey Elliott, and they were all asking for selfies with me as well, which is surreal, considering obviously I stand in the main stand watching them week in, week out, and they're asking me for selfies. So yeah, it was a bit of an out-of-body experience, I'd say.
You must have got quite nervy then watching you as well, because as you say, it's normally the other way around. We're watching them play and stuff like that, and so even for yourself, you're so experienced and used to playing in front of thousands of people and stuff like that. Having our heroes kind of watching you play, you're like, oh shit, I'm gonna have to be good now.
No, definitely. Like you said, it was Kelleher and Bradley. I thought it was just going to be them two, and then the producer said, "Oh, we're just going to get a few extras to stand in the back." And obviously, when all the other players come in, I was so nervous, and the lads were quite good as well. And then after we stopped filming, a couple of the other lads come and had a game of darts as well, which was really good.
Oh, brilliant experience. Do check out the video if you've not watched it. Like I say, both Kavir and Connor are pretty good players. Nice action, in my sort of humble opinion. But the city is obviously so proud of you, Stephen. You were born here. You moved to St Helens. I know St Helens is really proud of you as well. But it must give you such a thrill when you do stuff like the Liverpool M&S Bank Arena the other week, because that reception when you come out, I mean, you always get a good reception. It's one of the great walk-ins, yours. You know, it's one of the big ones when Titanium comes on and you come in. But especially at Liverpool, people can watch it. Sky have done a clip of it because it was that good. And I know you were looking forward to that one. I know when it was announced you were one of the 8 players doing the Premier League, that was the one you were sort of looking forward to. But it looked like, you know, in terms of the entrance, it sort of met all your expectations and then some. Yeah,
no, as soon as the calendar come out for the Premier League, it was all eyes on Liverpool, to be honest. For me, it was always going to be a great night. We put a bit of Jamie Webster in before we walk on as well to this city, and it was unbelievable, to be honest. The fans didn't disappoint, and the only disappointing thing was my performance. To be honest, I think it all just got a bit too much for me, playing in front of me city, in front of me fans, and but I honestly can't wait for next time, and I'm working really hard to make sure I'm in the Premier League next year as well.
It has been an incredible 18 months for you, though, hasn't it? Winning some huge tournaments. You're currently 4th on the PDC Order of Merit. What do you take that jump? What do you put that jump down to? Because listen, you've been a top player for over 10 years now. You know, it was 10 years ago when you were, you know, within the sort of the amateur tournaments that sort of puts you up, and so you've been around for a while, and darts fans will have known you for a long time, but this jump up to one of the top 4 or 5 players in the world, you know, what do you put that down to? Is it confidence? Is it just finding your groove? What's it been?
Yeah, I think obviously a bit of confidence. I think just putting more and more effort in, which is really important, and just believing in myself a lot more. I see a sports hypnotherapist as well, which really helps with the mental side of the game, and I believe that's really elevating me to another level, to be honest. But obviously, when you win titles as well, that brings more confidence, and you just sort of on a crest of a wave. I think the start of the year this year, getting to the semi-finals of the World Championships, and then winning in Bahrain, losing out in the final of the Dutch Masters, and just pushing myself back into the Premier League fold after 10 years. It's been a bit of a roller coaster start to the season, to be honest. But I'm all with it, and there's a lot more to come.
So this night is obviously a little bit more relaxed for you. It's not quite the Premier League darts in terms of the importance. I don't think there's much prize money at stake. You know, all the money's going to the foundation and things like that. So it is a little bit more relaxed, but it is going to be all the fun in the darts to encourage people to get dressed up and get involved. And obviously, you know, there's a chance to watch you. But Also, what made me laugh is there's a chance to play against you, so you can pay a tenner to go into a raffle and to get battered by Steven Bunting, which seems like an interesting prize. How will you approach that? Because obviously there's some decent amateur players in Liverpool, so you might have to be a little bit careful. But do you take it easy, or do you just not know how once you get to your level?
I think obviously I'll have to wait and see who it is who I'm going to be playing. But if they're of a decent standard, I'll definitely be trying my best. But if they're just there for a bit of fun and that, and obviously if they're in the fancy dress and that, I'll take it a little bit more easier on them and maybe throw a couple of double shots in or something. And we'll just all have a bit of fun on the night.
I love the idea. If someone comes on in a proper dart shed, they look like they play for the club, then you'll have a go. But if a Smurf comes on, you'll be like, yeah, I'll take it a bit easy. But listen, it is all about fun and raising money for the foundation. And I know you've done a couple of things with the foundation now, and you've been looking forward to this one. And as Liverpool fans, like me and you are, it's great, isn't it, that we've got such a strong foundation that do so much work in the community, because I've found, Stephen, the more I found out about them, the more proud I am really that, what they're doing, in the name of the club and with the badge, and they're able to reach people that maybe for some other charities or organisations a little bit more difficult for. It's the power for the badge, and they do so much. And so everyone who is going to support this, you're helping people in local communities who really need it.
Yeah, no, exactly. And that's what it's all about. And obviously, the LFC Foundation have been fantastic over the years, giving back as well, looking after the inequality in their communities and stuff. And they've been really fantastic. The club's really helped support that as well. And obviously, giving us some of the legends to use for the night as well. Jan Mulvey's going to be there. And it's all about raising money at the end of the day. Obviously, I hope loads of people put money in the hat as well to play me. And I'm sure people will be going around with collections on the night, and there's some fantastic prizes. I think there's a prize for the best fancy dress as well. So it's just going to be a really good laid-back night. Everyone's going to have a good time. There's a singer on. There's more special guests to be announced. And as long as we raise a lot of money for the foundation, that's the total cause.
Yeah, Keogh's going to be singing on the night, which is brilliant. And as Stephen says, you can win a pair of tickets to the Players' Championship in Minehead, which is completely sold out at the moment. So fantastic that they have put that forward. If you still want to get tickets, there are a few tickets still available. So your best bet is to go to the foundation website, and there's clicks through from there. It is Tuesday the 13th of May. It's in the main stand in Anfield, so it's a great opportunity to get into Anfield on a non-match day as well. Go in one of the lounges, see how the other half live and all that, and enjoy it. Get dressed up if you fancy it. Pay the extra tenner to take on Steven Bunting, whether you're a decent darts player or not. There's a range of tickets available for different sort of prices. So I think sort of something for everyone as well in different zones to get you different things and drinks packages and stuff like that. But something for everyone. Tuesday the 13th of May. Would encourage people to get down. And as I say, if you go on the LFC Foundation website, you'll find clicks through to there. But Stephen, top man, and yeah, Premier League champions, it feels all right, doesn't it, for Liverpool?
Yeah, it's unbelievable, isn't it? I can't wait for the parade. Obviously, them years ago when the COVID was there and we didn't even have a parade. Now we're going to have a parade the city's going to be full of red. And I think I fly back from Amsterdam that morning, so I'll be going straight into the city and get my space on the front so I can wave the lads with the trophy.
Well, there you are. Well, hopefully next year, LFC Premier League champions and Steven Bunting, Premier League darts. You heard it here first. Stephen, top man, thanks a lot for joining us. Appreciate your time.
No problem at all. Thank you.
And we're back. Thanks to Steve and John there. So, should we talk more centre-half chat? I think I've kind of had enough centre-half chat. Do you know what I want to do? I want to finish the show, the final phase of the show, talking about what our two nearest rivals, well, the ones we think will be our nearest rivals next season, are beginning to do in the transfer market, Josh. Been looking at City links, as you do. Fabrizio says they are very much interested in Morgan Gibbs-White. And I was pleased to note as well that Florian Wirtz, who they've been linked to all season, seems to now be more seriously linked to Bayern Munich. What are you thinking about these things, both links?
Yeah, I was going to say that. I think the link to Gibbs-White is really good for Liverpool because it means they're not getting Wirtz. That's the main thing. I think Gibbs-White's very good. I like Gibbs-White, and he's a good player and all that. I'm sure he'll do well for Pep, but it's not Wirtz. Wirtz would have been such a perfect De Bruyne replacement. and I was dreading that one. So I'm glad they're not getting him. And I think City's recruitment over the past few seasons has been interesting. I don't think it's been as good as it was. If you think about why they remained at the top for so long, it's because they had so many massive hits, like Company, David Silva, Yaya Toure, Aguero, De Bruyne, Sterling. It was like even when the original, the OG guys were kind of like getting phased out, then they started getting De Bruyne, Sterling and all that. And so
even Bernardo Silva,
Gundogan as well.
Yeah, they've had so many hits over the years. It hasn't just been throwing loads of money at it. It's been signing really good players who've got there's a plan in place and all that. I think the past few seasons that hasn't been the case as much. I think Doku's a bit of a weird one.
They were all sort of number one in their positions in the world available at that time, though, before giving their committee too much credit. I mean, everyone knew how good De Bruyne was. Everyone knew.
Did they though?
Yeah.
From Wolfsburg?
But at that
Paul
point,
Mason didn't. I've seen the clip.
Well, he'd gone up he'd accelerated after he left Chelsea. Everyone knew they were buying a hell of a player. I think they still had to pay 40 or 50 million, which back then, there's no small potatoes. Like when they got Raheem Sterling, it wasn't a secret he was great. When they got Aguero, he was a hell of a player.
Yeah, but I mean, I'm not making out that they're unearthing hidden gems by any means.
Okay.
That's not what I'm getting at.
Point is, they just stopped doing it.
Yeah, they did stop doing
even
that.
Rodri was a good sign.
That was a clever signing. I agree.
I think it's been more like they're getting hits.
Yeah.
I think Man United and Chelsea as well, another example, are teams who have thrown tons of money at players who you'd regard as obvious, but they haven't been hits. They haven't worked.
Yeah.
City have had a real success rate over a 10-year period of getting in game-changing hits who were like, spine for the team and that. I think lately, as I said then, Doku's a bit weird for them. I think Savinho looks like a bit of a project, although I do think he's got, the raw materials there. I think Matthias Nunes has been a flop. He's playing. I know he's doing well, all right lately as a right back of all places, but getting in Kovacic felt like a bit of a short-term thing, and then the fella who's overseeing all the recruitments in Bulgaristan, I think is how you say it. Yeah, he's leaving.
Cheeky.
He's leaving and that. So I think it's a big summer for City. Gibbs White would be an easy one. I think I don't think it can flop really. I think it's guaranteed to be a certain level, but it's not vertical, which is the main thing I'm focusing on. Like.
Yeah, amen to that. Yeah, we do not want them getting verts. Can't stress that enough. In terms of Arsenal, Beth, Miguel Delaney said he expects them to sign Sesko from Leipzig as to sort of end their quest for a striker. Is that one that would worry us? I mean, he's obviously done some numbers in Germany, but what do you think?
I think they will be better with a centre forward, but I just don't necessarily buy that it's going to solve all of the problems. I think that the way that they play maybe needs to change a little bit, because there was a lot of talk even last night after the PSG game that things might be different if they had a centre forward, but it's not necessarily like they're always creating loads and loads of chances that someone's just got to get on the end of. I think the wide players need to do more, particularly on the left. So I'm not sure that he's going to be a transformational signing for them. I think he will improve them. Do you think it will? Do you think that Miguel's expectation that it's him is a good expectation, or? Well, again, I think it sort of goes back to the same thing as the right back. It's who do they get? Obviously, every man and his dog. Is that the saying? Yes. Wants Alexander Isak, and there's a chance that no one's going to get him because Newcastle will fight tooth and nail to keep him. So if you look beyond that, there's not that many sort of obvious options that are ready-made to come in and start. So I think he's a good player. I don't necessarily know. I think he's a world beater. It's not sort of, obviously City ended their long pursuit for a striker with getting Haaland, and you knew straight away that he was going to come in and be a machine, and he has been. Yeah. I don't necessarily see that same thing with Sesko, but I still think he probably will improve them. But I think they need signings elsewhere. I think they need another winger. Maybe someone a little bit more creative behind. We know that Ødegaard has had a little bit of a drop-off this season. Ethan Nwaneri looks like he's going to be a good player, but interesting, he doesn't even get off the bench against PSG last night, which I thought was slightly mad. So yeah, I think he's a good player. Whether he's a great player, I'm not 100% convinced.
I think there's a lot of lads like that potentially available in Europe this summer, John. Another one who I think, if you ask me from a Liverpool point of view, who I would pitch for ahead of Sesko would be, if we can't get Isak, would be Victor Gyökeres, who we have spoken about at Sporting. So, to be honest with you, if Arsenal got Sesko, I'd go, good, that's cleared the field a bit for us.
There is a few, isn't there? But the creeping up in price is what I've noticed.
Eintracht Frankfurt.
Yeah, the guy, Nketiah is another one who you think, oh, well, he looks a good player, and then suddenly they're chatting 80 to 100 million euro, and listen, that might be their starting price, and they might come down a little bit from that, of course. But when you see the prices for the group, and Josh will know a little bit more about me about who seems more suitable for to take a jump up, but you sort of look at it and think, well, maybe just pay the money for Isak then, do you know what I mean? It gets to that point now. It's not as easy as that. Best point is right, is that Newcastle won't necessarily want to sell him, and if they qualify for the Champions League, we'll probably feel like that they don't even have to. But I think like all the others seem to come for the risk a little bit for me. We've been a little bit burnt with strikers from the Portuguese league, although maybe that's a little bit harsh. Listen, every football is different, but just talk about him going to Manchester United. But will he be prepared to step out of European football? If they don't win the Europa League final. It's an interesting one there, really. I think if they win the Europa League final, I think he probably will go to United, just because with
Gyökeres.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, just because the links
is his manager
with the manager and stuff like that. I think that'll set it up, and I think that'll sort of end up happening, and so.
It's a bit of a striker graveyard, isn't it, in recent years?
Well, we mentioned it. Yeah, it is, but I think they've not necessarily bought well. I think and so I think it's more who they've got in. I think I think it's set up for a striker to do well there. You've got good creative players behind you. People like Bruno Fernandes, who's an assist machine. I think they've just gone for the wrong profile. They either seem to have gone really old or too young, don't they? And so it's been a bit of a strange one, really. But I mean, their whole recruitment policy is absolutely crazy, isn't it? But for me, at the prices people are talking, I'd worry about most of them, really, and it's mad where Isak becomes the sensible option at £130 million. But we are where we are.
We are where we are. So I'm going to wrap it there. I hope.
Who do you like out of them, Josh?
I like Isaac, obviously.
Yeah,
and I like Alvarez as well. I don't know if that's
I
I was going to do it.
That's a bit more of a short thing. I think you probably end up with Alvarez. Yeah.
Well, I think if you're spending that much money, I think you want to really mitigate the risk, and I think those are the two for me that feel like virtually guaranteed home runs. I think. Yeah. Some of the others is a bit more of a.
We've got Alvarez and De Bruyne.
Let's save Alvarez for the next show. Hopefully the links get a little less tenuous than they have been thus far. I mean, there's talk of a Darwin Núñez Swap-a-Rooney deal, but I don't know. Anyway, the good thing to bear in mind is that we're shopping as champions, and champions tend to get more than than others get. Yeah. So anyway, thank you very much. Hope you've enjoyed this mashup. Gutter midweek extra show.
Must do it again sometime, Rob.
We must do it again sometime. Us and Saley. And it's going to be eSIMs flying all over Europe, aren't they, John? What with all these transfers we're going to be doing.
Richard is armed with one, and he's not afraid to use it.
He's a Saley guy. Thank you to Saley guys and gals, Beth, John and Josh, and see you all again real soon.